Welcome to What Grows. It's a podcast where we play with the connection between who we are and how we grow. I'm your host, Noella Moshi. Doris, for the last decade, you've been deep in the world of talent, strategy, and hiring, working to help companies build high-performing teams. But you've never just been about filling the roles. You ask the harder questions, like why do hiring mistakes keep happening? And why isn't internal hiring and promotion done better? So instead of just wondering, you build QuasiWorks to answer these questions. Beyond work, you're a mom, a scuba diver, an herbal medicine enthusiast, and a gardener. I still remember our very first conversation. You told me about your own mom, the way you sang with her and her neighbors by her bedside, and how she tried to prepare you for her departure. And through that conversation, your depth, your bold brilliance, and the way you see possibility and joy, it just stuck with me. So I'm very happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, well, my first question, if you could give your life a title like it was a book, what would it be?
Whew. I did actually. I did. I have a book. I still have it until today. I was in Dubai. I was in the learning and development team. And I think this was probably like maybe 16, 17 years ago. And they asked us to actually like put together a book. And it's still the same today. It never changes. It's very cliche, but it said she lived, she laughed, and she loved. I'm really bad at drawing, and there was a whole illustration of what that looks like. That still would be the book. Yeah.
Could you
Yeah.
describe the illustration for me?
there there was, I think, living. It's like I was in the beach and it was me like joyously like out there. The laughter, so I'm known for my laughter. I have this deep cackle. It's not even a laughter, it's a cackle. If you hear me laugh, you will know I'm around. Like there's no question about it. And so it was me throwing my head back, and it's almost like a witch laughter. In fact, the bracket was witch laugh. And love, which is something that has always stayed with me, is I tell everybody I was really loved by my mother, by the people that took care of me. And I think I don't remember that well, but I think it was probably, with my really bad design skills, it was probably a few love hearts around that. Yeah.
Mm, that's beautiful to know that
Yeah.
you're loved and to know it in the moment, so that you can enjoy it and you can bask in it.
I
That's really
know.
special.
Yeah. And it's still, even this week, even on Mother's Day, I told people, my mother-in-law asked me. She was yesterday. I had dinner with her, and she was asking me, "What do you remember most about your mother, or your grandmother in this case?" And it's the same thing. I said, I just felt really loved, and I don't think I knew how much until they left, and now I have to face the world without some cushioning and protection. I'm like, oh, that was deep. Yeah. So yeah, yeah.
I never met my grandmother, my father's mother, but I think about her a lot. I was named after her, my middle name, and I passed that name to my firstborn, which is kind of a little bit not our culture. Like it's the firstborn is supposed to get the father's mother's name, not the
Oh, okay.
mother's name.
Mhm.
But I really wanted my child to have the name.
That's a
And
shame.
there's something about the stories I've heard about her, the way that her kind of children, so my dad and his siblings, support each other, that has built this sense of who she is in my mind. And so I carry her with me. And one time I was talking to a friend who's more mystical even than I am, but I definitely believe in these things. And she said, yeah, yeah, I can sense her around your daughter and I can sense her around you. And that was honestly a little scary, but also kind of nice.
And you say something so powerful. I tell this to, I tell people I'm not the most religious person, but I, I can tell you, I sense my mother. I sense her. I know when she's here. I know when she's not. And I can't explain how. I'm very scientific and data oriented and very rational on one end. And on the other, I'll tell you, oh, yeah, I don't think I should go that way. My mother says I go this way. And it's just, So I can see when you say you sense, I understand because it's not something I can explain, but I definitely can attest to that.
I was just thinking about the companionship that happens even when people are not physically present. I was also one time walking home from dropping the baby off at daycare, and I saw the spring flowers, and I was like talking to my husband who was at home, but I was talking to him about the
Look at
flowers,
that.
even though he
Look at
he
that.
wasn't there, which is a
Look at
little
that.
bit odd. But yeah, there's something about the presence that's in us as well.
And so you said something powerful about you didn't meet your grandmother, but you were named after her. And so what I did, so I took care of my grandmother over the last 4 years after mom passed. But I took a lot of videos with her. She told me about how she got married, how she fell in love, and I wanted my grandchildren to watch her. So it's when you say that, I'm like, oh, I'm glad I did because even during when we were preparing for her funeral, I would be the one who was asked, okay, so when did she get married? Why did she do this? And I would actually go and check videos, and she would say, this is when I get married. This is what. And my grandmother could remember dates and time, not just, and she was 95. She had a brain, she had 49 grandchildren and 39 great grandchildren, and she knew all our birthdays, all of them. She would call you on your birthday and tell you, oh, it's your birthday. Whose birthday is it today? Is it yours? At 95, up to this year, she did that. So
Wow.
she just had a computer of a brain. She was on WhatsApp. She was on Facebook. She really lived. She lived her life fully. We were so proud of her. I didn't want her to go because for me it was the last almost defense I had against, I don't know, the big bad world. I don't know. And so it was gut wrenching. I went mute for about a week because I couldn't believe she's actually gone. I felt so, it's like something had been shred of me very violently. But she really did live a full life. Yeah, she did. It was last, actually the word is last line of defense. I felt like she was my last line of defense. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. I can feel that. It hasn't. My mom is still with us, but I can feel where you're coming from. And at the same time, the way I see you, which is obviously an outsider's perspective, is someone who lives quite not even just bravely, but enthusiastically. Like I'm not seeing the fear in the things that you are doing: scuba diving, starting your own company, leading for a while, leading other people's companies, and then just branching out on your own, being honest about the problems that you're seeing in your industry. Like no nonsense, no BS, I should say. And so how how do you what is your armor then now? How do you protect yourself or feel strong enough to do all of those things that many people are afraid to do?
Yeah. So I left when I was about, I think, maybe 10. I ran away, quote unquote, from my mother to go and live with my grandmother. My mother lived in a township, bus to school every day, and moved into a 200-acre farm where I used to walk 4 kilometers to work every day, come home, and I have to milk cows at 3 a.m. And I absolutely loved it. There was no part of that life that I wanted any different. My mother never used to understand why I would want to stay in that when, this other life presented itself. But I was brought up by part my mom, part my grandmother, but I never told to be afraid of anything. I was never felt, and listen, I'm neurodivergent. I make mistakes every day. 3 times, 4 times a week, we didn't have milk because I went off running or I went off climbing or I went off hunting and I forgot. And this happened so many, such small, little, tiny mistakes happened so many times. I would go to school, get distracted by something and not come home until maybe 8 o'clock at night. Everybody's looking for me. But at no point in any of this did I feel like I was a burden. Did I feel like my grandmother would just laugh? She would just laugh. She'd just say, oh, you're back again, or this again. And same to my mother. But the world didn't treat me this way so much. For me, I almost felt like I needed to be careful. I needed to. For a very long time, I didn't understand that who you are is just who you are, the package that you have. And I think when mom passed and I had to sit down and write her history, and it was identical to mine. I remember her teacher telling me that she never used to sit in class. She would always be standing and fidgeting. And I was like, really? I'm like, yeah, because the mother I knew was so calm, composed, graceful. I'm like, really, that's my mother? She's like, your mother would never sit. She would always be running around. She would be the noisiest one, the sharpest, but the noisiest. And I got so much acceptance of, oh, if she can turn out that well with all this, what society considers probably issues, then I'll probably be fine. And that has really helped me know that we are too hard on ourselves. And so it's allowed me to really just show up and show up as I am, which I've realized makes people show up as they are to me. I don't have friends I'm the kind of person you'll come to for probably any secret, and there'll be very little judgment. Yeah.
Yeah. I think about parenting when you said that your relationship with your grandmother and your mother, that just intense radical acceptance and how hard it is to let go when you love someone so fiercely and you see them doing something that you know it's not going to end very well, to let that be the case and let them learn for themselves. I find that so difficult, but if there's one thing I could wish for my relationship with my kid is that she still wants to be friends when she's an adult. And how else is that going to happen unless I practice the acceptance and the letting go right now?
I absolutely love the word you've used, radical acceptance. That that encapsulates exactly what my life was. And my mother, I wasn't a good child. I wasn't pleasant. If I remember the things I took her through and just the acceptance she gave me, I really tried that with my son. My son is 17, turning 18 next month. And his friends come here because even when they have girlfriend issues, because they know Mama Kipto, they'll sit here and say, listen, Mama Kipto, I have something to say. This has happened. What do I do? Because they know I never judge. I don't judge. And the other one, one time the other one came and said, I'm trying to get off vaping. What do I do? And he knows I won't judge him. I'll be like, okay, so how did you get there? What are you trying? Does your mother know? But the radical acceptance I was given, I'm really trying to pass it on. You give your child a chance to be open with you, and know that they have a safety net of some sort. Yeah.
We talked about radical acceptance in home life and with
Yes.
parents and with children. What does that look like for you dealing with clients who expect kind of certain things from your business and from the employees that they hire?
Recruitment is tough. I think because I have been a business owner, I know that you might really, really want to recruit today, and then in 2 weeks everything changes, and it's no fault of anybody, and that has really helped. I have a lot of acceptance for clients for where they are at this minute. I have learned to be obviously very selective about the people I work with, but once you're in my tribe, I'm really, really accepting of things changing, of circumstances changing, of even your feedback on a candidate. And I think this is where probably for me has really worked, where I am able to ask clients to be as genuinely honest as they can be, why they don't like a candidate. Because the more honest they are and the more that they know I will accept them as they are for their biases, the better I will be able to help them fill those positions. I think this has really helped me. I think probably the biggest thing about my recruitment business that has helped me is the radical acceptance of my clients' biases, sometimes calling them out, but sometimes accepting that this is who they are and this is the trauma, for whatever reason that candidate has triggered. It's no use me bringing such candidates because it'll still continue. I think from a work perspective, as I said the other day, I always feel like I assembled a money heist team. People who've never done recruitment, but people who are sharp, brilliant, curious, and half of them are just divergent in very many ways, showing the team that all of us have their strengths, accepting them for who they are, and almost balancing each other's strength is, I think, what has really helped the team stay intact. Yeah.
And it's when it's comes to HR and recruiting, it's very interesting because you're providing the same service that you then have to kind of use, and all of the values and things that you're saying to your clients kind of come into play as you hire and as you train and um, as you promote internally. And so when I think about the lessons that you must have, you are continuing to learn as you build CosiWorks, there's so much that you can then take directly to your clients because you've learned it yourself. What are some of the big ones that have come up recently?
I think for me, the big lessons that have come up, actually the biggest one, and sometimes I'm ashamed to say this is, but it's one that keeps coming up and up. So I've been at this now for about 11 months. I've probably placed maybe, I think, about 10 to 15 executives in that time. And maybe about 60, 70% of them, because for me, my measure of success is post probation, not pre probation. And about 60 to 70% of them have made it. But the 30% who haven't made it, the Doris before this would be like, maybe I need to change the hiring manager. Maybe the problem is organization, because you tend to be softer to the plight of the candidate because you know they left their job, they probably have a family, and you're panicking because you know what happens to them if they get fired. But I think over the last 4 months, I've realized that if a candidate is not fitting a company, I can't force feed that. It probably was the wrong fit. It doesn't mean they will not shine elsewhere, but it's not my responsibility to change the business. And it's not even possible because it's not the only employee there. There's another 2,000 people there. It's my responsibility to get them a candidate that fits that culture. And so what I do is I really spend time understanding who are you? Who are you when you're angry? Who are you when you're sad? What are those skeletons you have in your closet? The more you tell me about it, the more I find someone just as crazy to help you with that. I think that has been the biggest change and shift in how I think about recruitment. Is my role is to find someone that fits that company and not to try and form fit a candidate to a company. Yeah.
And that means a lot of personal engagement, not just with a candidate, but with their manager, I guess, so that you know what that fit is. And it feels very nuanced. I mean, is there a formula for doing this? Is if Doris were to be taken out of QuasiWorks, could she replace it with an equation? Or, yeah, what is the magic behind what you do?
Oof, it's time. I had a new client start in January, and I spent, let's say, I had a first kickoff meeting with him. I had a second, what we call a calibration meeting, which is again just trying to understand who they are more. And then I shared candidates with him, and he was so disappointed with my candidates. There's a quote in recruitment: the worst thing a client can tell you is, "Did you even meet these candidates?" And he told me, "Did you meet any of these people?"
Oh, no.
it, it's a knife, it's a dagger through your chest for most of us recruiters. And he was very surprised by how I took that. I'm like, yep, I can see why you think that. Remember, our relationship is brand new. I need to spend more time with you. I need to understand who you are. And so I would sit down and tell him, tell me exactly why you said no to each and everyone. Leave the yeses out. Tell me the no's. It's easy for people to select out than select in. So the more I understand why you select out, the better it is for me to give you better candidates. Um, and that takes a lot of questioning. It takes a lot of time. And I must say, my team is learning that pretty quickly because I tell them the more no's you get, the closer you are to a yes. Don't look for yeses. Can be very deceptive. Find the no's, understand why that client is saying no. The more you understand why the no, the closer you are to a yes. I think it's replicable. Is it very one times one is equals this? No, it's very nuanced. It's a bit of art and science, and one that every day I'm learning as I go along. But I can tell you the only formula I have now is the more a client is able to be extremely honest and tells me why he doesn't like ladies, it has to be something so
Mm,
crazy. It's always, but then like, it's always the craziest things. I don't work with
mhm.
this tribe. I don't like ladies
Mm.
because of this. It has to get really deep for me to know. Okay, now we are going to give this client good candidates here. But when they tell you culture fit, when they're still telling you culture fit, then you're not even close to that relationship yet. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a very generic term, isn't it? Culture fit.
Yes.
I mean, to have that level of trust that the client is telling you all of their biases and prejudices, I
Mhm.
can imagine that that takes time, but it is so worth it so that you're not wasting time sending them people that are just at face value. Yeah, nothing's going to happen.
Yes.
It's the world we live in.
Like right now, I have a client who has five really strong candidates. All of them can do the job. We gave him five candidates, all of them for country manager role, all of them can do the job. What's going to differentiate them is going to be the biases and the nuances, literally. So it's not, for me, it's not, at this point, it's not, am I giving you the right skill set? It's, so what's going to make you most comfortable that you're making the right choice? Yeah.
There used to be a version of me that wanted to get a yes, whether it was like I was applying for a job or trying to get a client or just whatever I was trying to do strategically. And more recently, I've switched that to wanting to get the truth. And very often I know, like when someone says to me yes, but they actually mean no, there's no point in bulldozing over that. No point in ignoring what my intuition is telling me, because a few months, a few years down the line, we're both going to suffer for it. So I've been really trying to listen to that. And I wonder how much of a role intuition plays in deciding who to match with a client, how much it is just your entire nervous system body of knowledge coming up without you even needing to kind of work through it intellectually. And you say, I just have a very strong feeling about this person. And is it years of experience? Is it not necessarily even linked to HR technical skills? It's actually linked to who you are as a person. That, I mean, yeah, how much of a role does intuition play in this work?
One of my main clients, who I'm on a retainer for, has allowed me to really understand their business and their biases. I can guarantee you, if I say this candidate is going to be hired by them, they're going to hire him or her. That's the level I have reached,
Mhm.
because I have spent so much time and so many no's, and especially the people they let go 3 months before, the people they had to let go because I had for them, and me understanding why is this not working, that I become really good at. I can give them one candidate and tell them, you don't need another one. This is the person you're looking for. And about 80, 90% of the time, I'm right. But that takes time. But you can, and I guess myself and a lot of other recruiters who do this, that is when you know you really have hit the magic with the client. Sometimes I even send candidates that they didn't even ask for. I can meet someone for another different client. I remember for one of my other clients, I met a candidate for a different client, and I said, this candidate belongs to this other company. And I was right. So the goal is to learn them enough, understand what their truths are, to be able to even casually say, this is a culture fit for the other business. Yeah.
Mhm. And then I wonder how you
Mhm.
maintain trust with the client as they keep saying no. Because sometimes as a client, I feel like because this person is giving me folks that I have to reject, it means that maybe they won't be able to find me the right one. Whereas what they need to be doing is trusting the process. So, how do you build that trust for the process of just going through the no's?
It's the selection. I am very careful about the clients I select. I lean more towards clients who've used recruiters before,
Mhm.
because they understand how much time it takes to get to onboard a new recruiter, and they will put in the time. If I do sometimes meet clients who have been referred to who've never used a recruiter before, I really spend time telling them this is going to take us 3 to 6 months before we get there. It might take the first three roles before we get there. And there's one the other day who told me, you have trained me to say no and not to feel bad about telling you. And I'm like, yes, that's what I need. I need you to tell me the no's, because then it helps me really, really uncover that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I like just managing expectations right up front. And then that what does I think it's like McKinsey that calls it obligation to dissent. Like
Oh, I like
you owe it to me to say no, and you owe it to
that.
yourself. That's your role in this process. And I really like that too. I can't help but think, because every day this year I've been thinking about AI and how it has shifted the way we do business. What does that look like for you?
I run a very lean team. I have only three, I think we're only three full time staff, actually four full time team. At any one point, managing about 15 to 20 active roles. I pay ChatGPT for the team. That's how much we use it. We use it from the minute a role starts. We have guides for every single process, up to and including the prompts that you need to build a JD, the prompts that you need to build a reference. Everything in KaziWorks is probably built from AI, except the
Hmm.
conversation with the candidate. Even that is recorded with the permission of the candidate. And then we have tools where we have told them these are the 5 competencies out of the 1 hour, rank the candidates based on those competencies and the conversations. Well, we use AI for everything.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. You really can reach numbers and goals that were unimaginable
Yes.
with a smaller team, like even just
Yes.
3, 4, 5 years ago. And it also then makes me wonder what
Mhm.
you hire for, given that you have chat to do all of these all of these things. You can record conversations, you can get insights from them, you can, structure your prompts. Then it becomes so valuable to hire for people who are doing the things that complement all of that automated
Mhm.
work.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So I don't know if it's skill sets that you look for, if it is values, it is what do you look for when you are making hiring decisions for KaziWorks?
The biggest skill set in recruitment, I think, and I could be wrong, is curiosity. Say, for example, we are starting a role for a company that is selling into plastics, and the CEO says, I'm looking for sort of the sales manager. A good recruiter, the ones I consider the best, would immediately go into, for example, ChatGPT and say, give me the top 20 plastic companies in Africa, because most of our roles, we get candidates across Africa, and start understanding and learning. I'll give an example. The other day, we are now currently hiring for CEO for a pharmaceutical manufacturing company. I had never done that much pharmaceutical hiring. And I can't go into a CEO call if I don't understand my client's business. As much as they can give me
Mm.
2, 3 hours, I really need to do a lot of work. Probably spent about maybe 5, 6 hours with a team understanding drugs, why, how they are ranked. This is antiretrovirals. This is WHO certified. It takes a lot, but I think the biggest skill set is curiosity. If a recruiter is curious, that to me is number one, because without curiosity, you will not understand that if you hit a roadblock here, how do you get creative? How do you still find that candidate who's not on LinkedIn, but you have been informed that there's a really reliable candidate elsewhere? You need to be curious enough to maybe go into the website, see whether you can find them in the website. If you don't find them in the website, find common connections. But you need to be curious. And the next one is tenacity. So we have this thing we call 7 by 7, which is you must try and reach out to a candidate 7 times in 7 weeks before you give up. That takes a lot, either by email, by phone, by white smoke, I don't know. But you only give up after 7 times. That's not for everyone, because most people will try once and give up. Twice and say, oh, I tried, I sent him 2 emails. You have to find, and in all these, you have to be very careful that you're not spamming. You have to still be permission, first. So tenacity becomes a second thing. I think the third one is really project management, because a big part of recruitment is you're managing a project. And so being organized, being structured, your weekly sending a client the weekly list of the candidates you've received would come third. Yes, that see that the project management to a very large extent can now be managed a lot by AI and sort of the project team. But I still think a recruiter needs to be able to know, if I need to find 4 candidates at the end of this week, how many do I need to start with at the beginning of this week? And that takes a lot of planning and organizing. I'd say those three. Yeah.
And curiosity, wow, that is, I mean, that's a transferable skill if I ever heard one. Tenacity, too. How do you check for this?
Oh, I figured this out in Usudi. I use it until today, and it hasn't let me down. I when I'm hiring for recruiters, researchers, this is where my bias for questions comes in. I will always ask you, what questions do you have? And that's where it
Mhm.
starts. So if you don't have questions about the JD, questions about the business, questions about the role, you're done with me. Like, this is where I really bring my question bias. I have a bias towards
Mhm.
people who don't ask questions, or against. but I use it really well in recruitment. And then, so I check how curious you are about the role, how curious you are about the business that we are in. And then I would also do, we do a case study where we ask you to, we give you a candidate, a JD, and ask you to source candidates. And we give you very clear instructions. You don't need to be a recruiter, just need to see the thought process behind why you selected the candidates you do. So we give you a case study and then we listen to you presenting why you selected the candidates, the thought process behind that. Yeah. Yeah. And that anyone can do that. And I'm not saying anyone in a bad way, but actually as long as you have really sharp, you have enough curiosity and you're curious and passionate about this, it actually cuts across skill sets.
I I want to change tack a little bit
Yeah.
and focus in on you, because I'm curious about your own journey that led you to start Kaziworks. And yeah, tell me your story.
I have a delicate relationship with HR because sometimes it's part of my identity, sometimes it's not. It's a strange one. But I am mostly what I would consider sort of talent management and development. My expertise is in either developing talent or helping you acquire the talent. And over the last 5 years, I used to manage teams that are either acquiring business or acquiring or sort of recruitment teams. And I used to look at recruitment and say, recruitment is so, it's interesting, but I don't know whether I would do it and enjoy it. Because it didn't, I don't think I appreciated just how much fun solving a puzzle, recruitment puzzle is until I joined Isudi. So I think when I joined Isudi and started actually figuring out this is really interesting, I get to learn a business very fast. Like I need to be able to learn that business so quickly and be able to find candidates who can plug into that business. And that's what I started getting excited about recruitment more than ever. So along the way in Yusudi, I got really burnt out and I started asking myself, what if you did this for yourself? And actually, quite a few clients also asked me the same thing. And
Mm.
that was my journey to Kaziworks. And so two parts of Kaziworks started, which is let's first build a thriving, profitable recruitment business. And then at the coattails of that, actually start building sort of online systems where the youth can come and learn about careers and learn about how to, how to sell themselves. I'm very passionate about knowing how they can package themselves really well, finding jobs that are not advertised. And so the goal is for the first 2 years for it to really just be a thriving business where we support clients and help them fill very complex, hard to fill roles. And slowly with time, start building content to help people who are really struggling with their careers. And for me, especially the youth, so that they can also benefit from a lot of the skill set that we're getting every day as a team. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also that financial freedom. That's a big piece of
Oof.
the puzzle as well. Then thinking about systems change from a place of strength, from a I can do this for myself and I can build in parallel. Maybe 70% of my time is Kazi works and 20% of that is like building out the future. I don't know what the balance is for you
Mhm.
personally, but
Mhm.
that and we just live in such you're from Kenya, I'm from Tanzania, we're East Africans. It's just an exciting time. There's a lot of young people there that need jobs, want jobs, deserve jobs, and there's a bit of a mismatch. And can you tell me a little bit more about what the future looks like if Kazi Works is successful?
So I want to first piggyback off something you said that, and I know we don't talk enough about it, is you can only give someone else oxygen when your oxygen mask is on.
Hmm.
And I think for a very long time, I felt like I didn't have my oxygen mask on, but I was trying to use, or I was trying to swap between my oxygen mask and helping the youth, my oxygen, and half the time burning out and losing air in the process. And the reality that the space of youth development in Africa is still so underfunded. It's something that is not scalable yet, probably needs another 10 to 15 years. And it's not a space that, if you're not careful, you'll burn out so quickly. And yet there are other ways to do this. There are ways to do this that allows you to still show up with your oxygen mask on and still support. without feeling constantly, oh my goodness, getting into this hole where you're just like, I don't even know how I'm going to pay my rent next week, but I still need to be able to give back. And I think that's a space I reach and I realize actually you can do this differently. And that's what to me Kazi Wax is, which is building a sustainable recruitment business that will be able to support myself, will be able to actually grow into something massive. My goal is to expand, support clients. Right now, my focus is manufacturing, retail, and agro processing. That's about where about 90% of my clients lie. It's traditional. It's the bedrock in my head, the bedrock of Africa. It's our food basket that I'm sort of supporting at the moment. And it's where I see so much joy when I feel a role for someone who is trying to grow, to provide food for us in Africa. I get so excited about it. To me, it's almost taking me back to where I belong in a very weird, twisted manner. The next year's strategy is now to start slowly building in graduate programs. We know that another sector that is almost broken is the graduate programs for a lot of these businesses. They get thousands of applications, um, and these kids, obviously, everybody's desperate for a job. They don't even get any response back. Even the internship and the graduate programs within those businesses are not structured in a way that allows the business to get return on it, but also the youth to feel like they have really learned over that period. So over the next year, we'll slowly start putting in graduate programs so that we support organizations who are looking for a very structured way to bring in interns and graduates into their businesses.
That is so exciting. And I can hear the energy in your voice as well. Like this is something that you are going to get done.
I can't wait. But I'm trying to say, focus, Doris, one thing at a time. Let's build one thing first. Let's get it working, and then we'll go into that next. Yeah.
Well, my last question for you is is around, I guess, leadership. What's something about you that quietly shapes how you lead, even if people don't notice it? These are the things, the values that you live by, or the approach that you aspire to.
I am a big, big fan of. I don't know whether you know the Conscious Leadership Group, the 15 commitments. I really try my best to lead through. I'll share with you the book later, but I think the biggest thing about me, and that has happened over time, is radical responsibility. Every time something goes wrong in my team, I never ask. I always ask, how did I contribute to this?
Mhm.
It's very uncomfortable for me half the time to say, okay, so why are we here? What was my contribution to it? And it's one thing that I was fortunate enough to have leaders who had radical responsibility as a thing that for them was really important, and I have continued with it. It really helped me and the team know that there's no blame. You rarely find anybody blaming each other in Kazi because there's no time for blame. Because Doris will not even blame me. I'll just be like, okay, so how did we get here? How did I contribute to you getting here? What more could I have done to make sure that we are not here? I think to me those are things that are very important. Kanda, I would guess also. You will not hear something about yourself from someone else. You will hear it from Doris. There's less rumors and gossip, and we're all just working towards something. What else? The intersection between being a career coach and a leader is spending more time understanding how people can live in their circle of genius. Every time I work with my team, I ask them, what is it out of all these things you're doing? What is the thing that gets you excited? What's keeping you down? And it's a luxury sometimes to always want your team to be sitting in that zone of genius. But I think the more time you allow people to spend time in their zone of genius and less on their zone of incompetence, actually allows them to thrive. So I probably spend a bit too much time there understanding, okay, so what do you like? Let me give you what you like. Let's find someone else to do what you don't like. And always, there's always someone else who likes what the other person didn't like. That way, we are all just trying to really work in the things that get us excited. Yeah.
Wow, that is a yeah, that's a company I would definitely want to work in, and a leader I could get behind. I think that makes a huge difference to motivation and therefore to results. To have someone that you know is on your team and is taking ownership of the work across board. So, yeah, I am so excited for what Kaziworks is going to do next. And I'm so grateful that you spent this time with me. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm also always looking for guests who enjoy meaningful conversations. If that sounds like you, please send me a message and let me know what you'd like to talk about. I'll get back to you. Thanks for listening.